Mahalia here, coming at you with a behind the scenes to the most recent conversation that we just had for the series of Live, Dare to Do More Than Exist. We just finished up a conversation with my guest by the name of Crystal, who is a personal empowerment coach. And there were a lot of nuggets that came from that conversation. If you missed it, no worries, I got you. You can go visit the Moments with Mahalia podcast on momentswithmahalia.com, or you can carry me around in your mobile device on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Definitely connect to this series. If you are a person that's saying, I have a lot of different gifts, or I have a lot of different goals, and I'm striving to do all these different things in life, but I really just think that I'm just going through the motions, or I'm just existing right now. Or if you're just saying too, I don't have a bunch of goals, but right now, I don't think I'm actually living and thriving, then this series is for you. The series, again, it's called Live, Daring to Do More Than Exist. Now, Crystal, we are for the behind the scenes, girl. Let me know what's going on in your mind after our conversation.
So many things are flooding through my mind right now. I just get so excited when I get to talk about overcoming obstacles and prevailing through failure and really learning where our inner strength resides. And so I'm excited to continue this conversation. I'm excited to dive in a little bit deeper and really talk about this idea of purpose and personal growth.
Yes. Okay, Crystal. So you just kind of tapped into it. Purpose and personal growth. We sometimes hear these things as, oh, you have purpose, or there's rooms for personal growth. And they're not always necessarily talked about together in some cases. So can personal growth and purpose be all aligned to help us ultimately live at our optimal level and really reach destiny?
Absolutely. And it's great that you make that point. I personally believe that purpose and personal growth are important when specifically overcoming obstacles. We talked a lot about resilient people. And, when I think about myself and my resiliency, I find myself constantly in search of my purpose. And, I take a look through my rear view at my setbacks through a broader lens. And so, I find myself tapping into the idea and the belief that, potential does lives inside of me. And so, as people who are really trying to thrive in resiliency, I really implore you and challenge you to really think about those things, be reflective, and, recognize where your potential really lives. And so when you think about purpose, when you define purpose, it's the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. Another definition is that it has intentions or objectives, right? So what is one's intention or objective? When you think about personal growth, this defines various techniques for improving one's habits, behaviors, or actions and reactions. And so successful personal growth does require a certain level of motivation and a desire to improve, the willingness to strive and make changes. And so as you can see, purpose and growth do directly align, because when you're operating in your purpose, you have an intention or an objective that you're trying to meet. And when you are trying to grow personally, you are tapping into that desire to improve and make changes in your life.
Wow. Family, if you're catching up a little bit with us as well, we just finished talking about on the podcast, talking about how to navigate through hardship. And Crystal, when you were talking about purpose and growing through different moments and points in our life, and you were really connecting the two, my mind began to think about even more, well, can purpose be born during a hardship? Can purpose be born from turbulence, from those stretching moments? And can we grow even in those moments? Because, you know, I've heard at different points in my journey, in my life, which really has kind of came true when I sit back and think about it and I really process different moments. A part of my purpose was birth from struggle. I'll be honest, Moments with Mahalia was birth nearing the beginning or a little bit after a little bit of a major storm that I personally experienced. And over time, with working through those moments in my life, the growth came, and how I see myself now and the person that you all are seeing as you watch this video may physically look the same if you knew me back then, but from a spiritual standpoint, from a mental standpoint, and even just from a level of knowledge, is not the same. And oftentimes we can run away from struggles. We can run away from the hardships or those stretching moments, but there is something that comes from those experiences that are necessary to mature us. I believe it was Pastor Rick Warren, who mentioned in one of his teachings before about maturity and the stretching periods. It builds your character. In the stretching periods, you learn and unlock different things about not only who you are, but who you were created to be and your abilities. And whoever is watching right now, that's something that I want you to make sure that you begin to understand, which will shift how you see a hardship. It will shift the strategy that you choose to use when you're navigating through a difficult terrain. Because when you find yourself in difficult terrain, you have two options. You can stay in the weeds, you can stay in the mud, you can go deeper in the quicksand, or you can figure out a way to make it through, to get out, to get to the other side. But those choices really lie within us. And Crystal, from your experience, how do you go about encouraging someone, providing and telling them about different techniques or different things that they can do to shift their perspective, to add more fuel to their tank to fight harder than before?
So the most important thing that I'll start with is that there's a reason and a purpose for every experience that we undergo throughout our lives. And we have to make sure that we pause and give life and time to the fact that we need to reflect on those experiences and glean and take away from those experiences the things that we need to learn to move forward. And you made a very great point about, can there be this idea of meeting your purpose in the midst of a challenge or an obstacle? You certainly can. When you think about, like I said, the fact that everything happens for a reason, what I generally tend to do in my own personal experiences is I assess the situation that I'm experiencing, and I try to figure out what the goal or the end result is, or how I can fix or resolve that issue, whether it's something that is directly related to me or something that I'm helping someone else to navigate through. And a lot of times you'll find that answer, especially when you look at it from the perspective of fight or flight. Are you going to dig your heels in, or are you going to fight to try to overcome that obstacle, that battle that you're dealing with? Or are you going to flee the scene and just leave everything there, to work itself out? And so when I think about this whole idea and this concept of reflecting on our purpose, and also recognizing the fact that there are various stages in our lives where purpose will change, right? Our purpose and the things that we are called to do may be a seasonal thing, right? And so when we're reflecting specifically on our life's purpose, there are a few questions that I challenge you to consider. I challenge you to ask yourself these things. The first thing is, who are you? The second, where do you belong? And then the third, when do you feel fulfilled? And if you can answer those three questions, that will lead to you pinning down your life's purpose, which is your personal contribution to the world. And no matter what obstacle that you're met with, no matter what challenge along the journey that you're faced with, if you are in tune with your purpose and you know exactly what you were purposed and placed on this life to do, you will have the tools in your toolbox to be able to prevail and overcome that thing that is trying to take you out.
Wow, knowing your purpose makes a big part of the difference in how you navigate. You know, I will be remiss, family, to think that someone watching right now knows their purpose, knows their calling, or can I clearly identify why? That's okay. But I will let you know you're not exempt from struggle and from hardships. But one of the things, though, that you have in your toolkit, that you have in your pocket, that you have access to, is choice. So when you find yourself facing your mountain, when you find yourself at the beginning point of an obstacle, I challenge you, face it head on. Face it head on and encourage yourself along the way. Because as you work your way through it, you'll learn things about who you are. You may even identify a purpose afterwards or something that you're passionate about. We all have things that we like to do. But when we discover the things that we don't mind losing sleep over, when we discover the things that we are even drawn more to and we become hungry to learn more about them or to grow in that respective area, my dear friend, you're knocking on the door of purpose and calling at that point. So as you continue to move forward in life, as you continue to walk forward in your journey, look for those moments. Take time, as Crystal mentioned, about reflecting, to be still so that you can have a moment to allow your mind to process the things that you've experienced. Allow your mind the opportunity to reflect and assess and look at, okay, well, what are some of the things that I learned? What are some of the things that have now been considered defining moments for my character, defining moments of making me now who I am in this particular moment? Family, there is value in really fighting for purpose. The longer you continue to live, the more opportunities you have to fight, to propel yourself, to operate, not just in purpose, but operate in your divine destiny. Woo, Crystal, I love this topic of understanding how to navigate through hardship because, you know, I sit and think about myself at different moments in my life where if I would have known that going toe to toe with my giant was necessary to get me to this particular moment, I probably wouldn't have stalled so many different times. I probably would have sat and allowed myself to go through those moments. I probably would have said, you know what, let me tighten up my shoes. Let me put on my waders if I have to wade through the water, or let me go ahead and zip up my coat because it may be cold right now, but the sun is going to come out and it'll be warm soon enough. And I'm sure that there's somebody who can maybe relate to me in this moment. There's probably times where you decided to tuck your tail and ran away from the turbulence. But let's make today a different day. Let's make our future part of our journey to live in this constant state of growth. Let's grow each and every day. Crystal, what's going through your mind right now, girl?
It really makes me think, as I was doing research just on this topic, I came across a renowned coach by the name of Richard Leader, and he has a TEDx out on YouTube at TEDx Adina. And the title of the one that I watched was How to Unlock the Power of Purpose. And he has this thing where he talks about repacking your bags. And he tells us that we should set down what we're carrying and really take a close look at the contents to determine if the things that are in our bag are fundamental for the next leg in our journey. A lot of times we find ourselves keeping all of these items in our bag. I'm guilty of the fact that I have a purse that is the size of a suitcase, and I have everything known to man in that purse. But I can guarantee you, if there's something that you need, I probably have it. The challenge, though, with that is there are some journeys that you go on that are long journeys that require that you don't have a bag filled with items, because you're not going to have the tenacity to be able to carry all of those things on that journey. And so it's important for us to really, truly assess and look at the contents of our bag and take out the things that are not fundamental to the journey that we're on. And it's the same thing when you talk about baggage in a life perspective. There are certain aspects of baggage, things that we continue to carry, things that we continue to hold on to that no longer define us. But for some reason, we don't want to let them go. And so when we find ourselves in a situation or in a position where we're met with a new challenge or a new obstacle, we're still defining ourselves by those old contents. And so we have to be intentional about making sure that we are taking an inventory of the contents that are in our life and that, are in the bags that we carry, to make sure that we are putting aside the things that we no longer need. And I think that that's important because, the way that I defined myself 3 years ago is not how I define myself today. But if I'm still holding on to that definition of Crystal from 2017, that may be a hindrance for me as I'm preparing to go to my next level. And so I think it's important for us to really, truly take the time to do that self-inventory and make sure that we repack our bags with the fundamental things that we're going to need to sustain us through the journey that we're on at this phase in our life.
Man, Crystal, dropping the nuggets, dropping the gems. The self-inventory, repacking our bags. And it's interesting that you bring this up because April is the first month for the second quarter. If you haven't taken time, family, to go back and reassess your first quarter or the mindset that you are operating in and some of your tactics and strategies for this quarter, take a pause. It's not too late to take a pause because we still have a few more months of this quarter left and a few more months in the year of 2021. So you still have time to have that strong finish. If there's been things that you put to the side, or if you're walking around with the anger, the resentment, the frustration from something you were holding on to from 5 years ago, it's time to go ahead and lay that to rest. Make amends with that person. Pick up the phone. Make the difficult step to choose to correct or to choose to forgive, to let go and move on. That inventory of our personal bag. We've heard about the bag lady. We've heard about different songs that talk about that, or even about how sometimes we weigh ourselves down. But family, your purpose requires your best foot forward each and every day. Reaching destiny requires you to live in a constant state of growth. This growth thing is real. We have the ability to evolve. We have the ability to walk in the abundance that's laid before us. But we have to make the choice to select options and to select things that will continue to propel us down this road, growing, versus walking backwards while looking behind us. It's hard to walk towards your purpose and walk towards your destiny with your back towards it. You want to be able to see where you're going. You want to be able to see what's ahead. And in order to do that, that means you have to make the choice to sometimes choose things that are uncomfortable, that are unfamiliar, but that are connected to purpose, that are connected to your calling. Crystal, before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you want to share?
I just want to leave you with this quote by Richard Leader. And he says, genuine purpose points to the end of a self-absorbed, self-serving relationship to life. When your authentic purpose becomes clear, you will be able to share it with the whole world. So I challenge you, if you don't know what your purpose is, to really take that time to do the self-work to find that purpose. And make sure that once you find that purpose, that you share that purpose with the world, because they need it and they need you.
Crystal, thank you so much. Our world needs you. Yes, you who are still tuning in at this moment. Yes, your purpose is worth fighting for. Your destiny is worth fighting for. Greatness lies within you. And remember, you can champion forward through this journey by placing one foot in front of the other, by having the courage to take that step, by having the courage to encourage yourself along the way. Continue to grow through life, family, and you're not doing it alone, because I'm right here with you, growing with you along this journey. I'm honored to be able to bring Moments with Mahalia to you right where you are, because we are really on this journey together. And because of that, I want to remind you that if no one else tells you this today, I want to let you know that I love you and you can't do anything about it. Because, family, our best is truly yet to come. While you walk forward on your journey, while you champion forward, while you fight for your purpose, I'd like for you to fight in knowing that you are a boss. So be brave, be optimistic, selfless, and most importantly, strong. I'll talk with you all soon. I'll talk with you all later. Be blessed.